et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see anyone in the, maybe there are comments in the issue. I don't see the header updated yet.
I thought we had in Slack sort of farmed each one of them out.
So I guess the next, so it looks like Ty put in some folks. It looks like this looks good. So let's see, need support from GTM teams. So I guess the ask would be to work with your GTM teams. Let me ask it. I saw some Slack, I think in our Slack, but did you all, were you all able to connect with like your GTM teams?
On Slack only, and on the issue actually.
Yeah, same. Not in real time, but source feedback. I got one person to respond so far, so it may end up Cindy being you and I just picking the one that we want to do, and then they can back us up if we don't get any more feedback.
Yeah. Do y'all? Does anybody have like a regular sync still? Are those all been canceled, or is there?
We still have a regular sync.
Yeah, we're on like a 2-week cadence.
Okay.
Yeah, GitOps has been canceled now after the enablement.
Cool. So I'm just trying to catch up with the thread. So it looks like maybe platform on reInvent, CI/CD on Google Next, and GitOps on KubeCon. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's where we were last I heard.
Cool. So then I think we can help the corp events team. They do a lot of like cat herding and keep on tracking people down. So I think if this team can take the mission to like try to help track that down. So if you get the commitment specifically from your campaign managers, hey, like we're signing up for KubeCon, can you comment on the issue that yes, I can commit to this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that they can get that event support. But that looks good, and I appreciate. Thanks for the link too, Samya, on the roles. Product announcements. So I appreciate Brian for adding this. I probably should have added it, but
I had 2 questions about that one.
Mm-hmm.
One is, over what time frame are we looking at?
So in theory, this could be the same as the GitLab 14 launch, where we're saying basically since 13.0, what kind of big improvements have we made? Candidly, this is always a little bit tough, and I am not totally sure of all of the kind of the interplay here, but I think this is kind of the general gist of this assignment is, okay, we have commit coming up. We have some amount of, we have a stage, a metaphorical stage to say something to the world, and we'll get some amount of press attention because we're having an event, right? What kind of announcements do we make? At GitLab, it's really, really tough to make product announcements because our entire roadmap is completely public, yada, yada, yada. So the thought here is but also because our entire roadmap is completely public and because we ship these tiny little MVCs, a new feature will come out, but it'll be not really usable, right? So it takes a while. So if you look back over the past year and say, okay, like what started in the last year, but now is really like a full-fledged feature, what would be coming out of beta, right? Like if we were any other company and we started a beta program in this last year, what would we be announcing as GA at commit? That's kind of my thought on it. I see a couple head nods. What do you think, Cindy?
Yeah, I think I was inclined to group some things to say, like, vulnerability management, because there were tiny little MVCs all the way along. But if you look at over the course of the year, we went from this to this. It makes more sense to me to highlight that than in any individual little thing. And then the other point was, we just had 14.0. Can we reuse some of those things and plug them in here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And vulnerability management was one of the, the features out of, we looked at in 14.0. So I think, yeah, this is like, let's take the stuff from 14.0 and then maybe add a few more so that we can hit kind of different areas of press or give our PR team. This is kind of like input into our PR team to give them fodder to go out with.
And are we trying to hit 3 per stage?
Ideally there's just, 3, 3 items per stage. And then I think y'all made some good notes that, okay, we need to add manage. So I see manage in here. That's excellent. And integrations, we don't, well, actually we have some pretty exciting integrations. So we have,
the Jira stuff is pretty good. There's a couple of things in integrations with VS Code that could be notable, but can I show what I did for SCM just to get some general feedback on it? And if someone hasn't done it, maybe that'll also kick them. I was going Cindy's direction here, which was thinking, a lot of, and then I called them key iterations, the sort of specific things. So I listed a few specific things, like 3 or 4 per each as key iterations, but I called them something overall. So we would have like one thing to call them. There are several key iterations aligned with Gitly cluster, several that roll up to a research-based user experience. And I was thinking like, I was shy on calling out UX as a bucket, except that actually that's super typical, right? Like Windows 11 or anybody who's rolling stuff out, they almost always have UX as one of their 3 things. And then they mention a laundry list of stuff that aligns to that. So I forgave myself for doing something that at first I was kind of like shy about calling out UX and bucketing some things there. But actually when I looked around, that's pretty much how everybody does a big launch. And in terms of the excitement level, that also, like, I went in thinking this is just a 2. I guess part of it is like, I feel like we're almost fixing something that's broken, and that's not something you want to shout from the rooftops about. But actually some of that stuff's really cool. So I gave it a 3. Excitement level, I wasn't sure exactly where to place things, but I figured I wouldn't, like to Cindy's comment, have something that's a 1 here anyway. But the only way I could make sense of like the iterations was to bucket them as something. And so that's kind of how I came down on it. I don't know what everyone thinks about that.
Yeah, I like that.
Sorry,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No.
I've taken a similar approach for monitor. With incident management, there were a bunch of things that we released. Although the core of incident management was part of 12.x, I think. So I did the same over there as well. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and that would help me with the plan stuff as well, because there are some things like epic boards that people have been asking for years now, and they finally have, and that's great. But I think, like the milestone burnup charts, that was a 2, and that's helpful. And I was looking through features and actual monthly features that were released in a given month. I mean, that was one of the more important ones, but it's not very exciting. But we can bundle that with some other things and up level it. So that would be helpful there. And also, Brian, about the VS Code thing, one other cool thing about that is both of those VS Code integrations that hit the same month were community contributions, which is also kind of cool.
Do we have VS Code listed on here?
I didn't add it, but I can add that in. I've got good notes on that. The extension that had been around for a while became official, was kind of one of the things, but there's some other stuff that's a little juicier than that.
And I think that's a pretty good note as well. We did that with like our Terraform module, right? There was like a community module, but now it's officially supported. So that's the, that can be the line, yes or no, whether you can use the thing for a lot of businesses. So I think that's a good one too.
How are we measuring excitement levels 1, 2, and 3? Is there? I was looking at maybe MAU as a metric to perhaps measure whether customers have started using that, are interested in using that or not. We probably may not have it for everything, but at least some of it, wherever we have it, it's probably something we can use. Yeah, but of course we need a benchmark level of what MAU we want to call 1, 2, and 3.
I think it's a little bit of a judgment call. Like, for example, Cormac was saying like Epic boards is something that was asked for a long time. Now, depending on how it's asked for, maybe that means it's exciting or it's not, right? But usually when something gets a lot of upvotes or when there's a lot of demand for it, then I would bump the excitement level on something like that. Certainly, if something shipped and a lot of people are using it, the MAU, that's another good measure. I don't know that any one of those needs to kind of be exclusive. I think it's a bit of an individual judgment call on just like what is your feeling based on, could be anecdotal, like you talk to customers and they're like really hyper excited about this. Or, maybe not, which is okay. I think it's okay.
Harsh responded to my comment about why we have the low excitement ones and just said something about having them sort of stack ranked.
Yeah, I might even constrain it. Says we're not going to highlight low excitements, but we want to see the full spectrum, especially in the case we have slim pickings. Alternately, if there are double-digit entries, then we can stack rank. So that's kind of also helpful there. So if we have 3 for all of these, it looks like we're going to get there, and that's going to be quite a lot of features. So I might constrain it like this. Maybe you can only give out 1, 2, or 3. And treat it as a stack rank rather than just like a raw excitement level. That doesn't necessarily
hard to somebody's 1 or somebody's 3 may be more important than somebody else's 1.
Agreed.
Depending on the.
Yep.
And I had I started by just looking at what was considered a key feature over the past year from Create, and there are at least a dozen things that I'm not mentioning that could be on the list. Like I could give you 10 things instead of 3.
Yeah, give this just like the rough like pass, and like a lot of things recently, I've been moving between docs and spreadsheet and the spreadsheet to docs. This might end up, or some iteration of this might end up in a spreadsheet where we then try to stack rank, and PR is like, okay, out of all of like the, there's maybe 10 boxes here and 3 each out of the 30 items, which are the top 5. Actually, let's actually just do that. Let's just do this like top 5 overall.
So this one is PR driven to some degree. What about like Anoop and Christie's product keynote at Commit? Are we dovetailing this with that?
So this is exactly where this is headed to. Okay. Is the idea that during the product keynote and then ideally during Sid's keynote as well, that there's some level of like an announcement that we make that then the press cares about that announcement. Again, really tough to do at GitLab because it's all been around for a while. So this is our attempt to head to that area, is to say like, these are the announcements of the event. And yeah, maybe it's some things that have been around for a while, but like now they're at a level of maturity. Now, there's reason to be excited about this. So that's kind of where it's coming from. So I put a top 5 overall. Maybe we can just, maybe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120
We should reserve a spot for plan, but I'm going to have to go through and do some aggregating after this. Just go through the list of what's shipped in the last 12 months and rebucket that.
So maybe we can do like 5 minutes, kind of like just time box and kind of look at these here. What do you all think is would be a top 5 out of the list of 20 or 30?
I would say if UX does end up being a flag that we fly, that's an easy one because there's more than just maps to the create stage that would be considered a UX improvement.
Okay. What else?
We need to have a security one in there. We could have either vulnerability management or what I've been struggling with a little bit is I'd like to kind of group the some of the proprietary scanning without making it sound like they're scanning improvements, because that sounds like they weren't good before.
Yeah. Let's go with vulnerability management for now. I would agree on that one, and I would say that some of these we did do some press around, and the fuzzing acquisitions was one thing, so we might not get a second
that was
chance at
kind of
that.
old. I mean, we did the fuzzing acquisitions a long time ago.
Was it within the past year or longer? I thought it was within the past year.
I think it was in the last little over 6 months or so.
It was last
Yeah.
summer, right? Or something around there.
It was like last spring or summer, and then we did another set of press around the integration of it because we did another set of press around the integration of it because the PR team liked all the, I mean, we got a lot of attention on the acquisition, so they had me do a follow-up on the integration. I just feel like it's kind of worn out now, but.
Right, that's what I was saying, is that the fuzzing we already did press on, so we probably will not get another chomp at that. So I think let's go with vulnerability management.
Unreview is.
Well,
the
we also have,
position.
in terms of proprietary stuff, we've also got, we replaced one of our scanners with SemGrip, and we did, we have our own proprietary DAST scanner now that's in, it's in beta called Browserker. So it's our answer to scanning single page applications, which represent a unique challenge. I think, I mean, if I could have two, it would be vulnerability management and Berserker probably.
Okay.
SemGrep did get picked up as a line item in a couple of the pieces about GitLab 14.
Mm-hmm. It's in beta called Browserker.
Which between the proprietary ships and the vulnerability management, which would you pick as the number one out of those two?
Probably, I mean, if I could have two, I did.
Which between the proprietary ships. Agent plus Heshy Corp integrations. It's like a bucket of capabilities that is probably worth talking about. Is, cool. Well, let's try to, this is due Tuesday, I think. We want to try to get this done. So maybe just review this kind of like, let's just kind of pick top 5, maybe something from plan and something from CI/CD.